There, we got a clock. Okie dokie, and we can do that. And this. And this. Okay, everybody's cool. All right. Everybody's doing well, I'm hoping. We've got moderator Matt in the house. A bunch of other familiar names. My coffee is still technically there, so that's good. All right. There may be some strange noises at some point. Somebody just parked a pickup truck across the street, and it seemingly has some belt issues. So if they decide to leave, it will be very squeaky, and all the cats will get weirded out, as will I. All right. Anyway, let me see what we got. We've got people coming in from the UK, and we've got dreary South Jersey. I'm sorry to hear about that. Belgium, Derby, Cleveland, Virginia Beach, Duluth, Georgia, Portugal, Switzerland. Got Middlesbrough, England, Switzerland again, Devon, Sweden, Chicago, Winnipeg, Southwest Australia, Germany, Pontiac, Illinois, Ireland. Got a couple more from England, another from Denmark, Poland, Philippines. Working on Forge World, Bobby G, we'll just say, because I can never pronounce it properly while listening. Good to hear it. Morning from Georgia. Let me see here. What else have we got? Scotland, Missoula, Saskatchewan. It's always a lot of fun to say Saskatchewan. We've got Uperland, which is the Upper Peninsula, or the UP, hence Uper. That's in Michigan. St. Louis, Central Texas, Italy. Good morning from the Pocket Dimension from JP Got Rockets. Always glad that you're able to get a signal out of the pocket dimension. Is it the front pocket or the back pocket dimension? That's my question. Uruguay, Clearwater, Florida, the Netherlands, California, Los Angeles. Those are technically can be two different places. Oh, North Los Angeles. Hello, Blake Gaskins. How you doing? Dallas Fort Worth has been soaked over here, working on some Seekers of Slanesh. We had a bunch of rain earlier in the week and over the weekend, and everything when I got home from Nova was damp, like really damp. Like the basement, there was wetness down in the bunker, and it made me sad. And then like Monday or Tuesday, all of a sudden, it just became high of 72 and like no humidity, and it has been, the rest of the week has been gorgeous pretty much. And it's supposed to be pretty no rainy for the rest of next week, too. It'll get a little warmer later in the week, but like high of 78, 79. So I've got no complaints. It's lovely outside right now here in my neck of the woods. Milwaukee, Alberta, Kentucky, Sweden, Birmingham, Canada, Jakarta, Neilsville, Wisconsin. Ancient Japan. Oh, that's cool. How you doing, Tick? Waco, Texas. What else have we got? More Northern Ireland. Been building Kill Team terrain for the past 3 days. Really enjoying it. Yeah, the Kill Team stuff, I really enjoyed building it too. And then I bought, after released, I bought another, that big box that comes with the statues too. And I've built a bunch of it, but mostly the smaller stuff. I built the statues first because I was like, well, those guys are cool. And then I built a couple of the smaller kind of pieces, and I'm kind of holding off on the big pieces until something struck me. Not physically, but, inspirationally. And then while I was at Nova, actually, I saw some of the Kill Team tables that they had set up, and they had built some of the stuff in a way that was very interesting to me, so I took a bunch of pictures. So I want to try to do that with some of the stuff that I've got. I think that'll be kind of cool. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it though. I'm starting to slip into paint mode, so it might be a little bit difficult to get back into build mode for a bit, but we'll see. I can potentially multitask. Hard to say. Oklahoma, West Bend, Wisconsin. The Big Goblin 86 says, painting the new Lord of the Rings Pelennor Fields box. That stuff released while I was at Nova. And to start off the booty portion here, I picked up the book. I've never played... I owned the original book, which was the Lord of the Rings strategy battle game. Yeah. And I bought it just because I'd heard good things about it, and I wanted to kind of page through it and stuff. And I really liked the rule set. I thought it was very interesting, but I didn't know anybody else who played, and I didn't have any of the models and stuff. But it was a very different rule set from everything else that Games Workshop was putting out at the time. I think that was right around the time of 5th edition 40K, and the strategy battle game looked really cool, and I was interested in it. And then I never, like I said, never really played it and all that kind of stuff. And then they came out with the War of the Ring, which was like, hey, why don't you play with huge armies? And I was like, no. And then they also came out later on with the Hobbit strategy battle game, which was basically kind of like 2nd edition. And now they've got the Middle-earth strategy battle game. So I picked it up. I did not wait in line at midnight at the convention. I waited till the next day. I was like, well, if they run out, they run out. And I'll pick one up when I get home. And then the next day, like on Sunday, I happened to walk into their booth again and looked around, and they had piles of them. So I was like, oh, cool. So I picked one up. But I didn't buy any of the models. They had lots of models there too. So... but yeah, I'm looking forward to doing that. Let me see here. VJ Morph says, any chance of seeing those Kill Team terrain picks before I build mine, Adam? I'm holding off as I'm not sure what to do with, what I want to do with it. I might be able to do that. I don't know that I'll be able to do it on the show. They're on my phone. They're not on Instagram, I don't think. No, they're not on Instagram. I'll see what I can come up with, or, I'll figure something out. But, I mean, it's not like, they're not crazy. It's just I hadn't thought of it that way before. It's some of the taller pieces of terrain, and then they kind of, I don't know. I'm not going to follow it exactly, but I do kind of like what they did there, so I'm looking at maybe messing with that. So, let me see here. Thanks for all your content. Learned so much from you. Greetings from the Netherlands. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Everybody painting fantasy thing while I'm here painting Napoleonic dragoons. I thought it said dragons at first, and I'm like, well, that sounds like fantasy, but dragoons, that's a different thing altogether. Michael Strange says 75 degrees Fahrenheit is perfect for rattle can, but the humidity stinks. Yeah, that's always the issue. On my phone, I have this app for weather that I use called Weather Underground, and it has this great feature where you can put in specific parameters. They give you like a list of different parameters that you can set in temperature, humidity, wind, stuff like that. And then you can name that parameter something. So let's say you were into sailing. Well, you don't want to go sailing on days when there's no wind, and you don't want to go sailing on days when it's raining or whatever, all that kind of stuff. And then it will give you like a little special like bar graph that shows like, these times tomorrow are going to be the good times according to your parameters for sailing or for whatever. So I've got one that's called Rattle Can. So I can just look at a glance at my phone at the at that weather app, Weather Underground, and just look at it and go, oh, tomorrow's a good day for Rattle Can, or tomorrow is not a good day for Rattle Can. And it's kind of nice, actually. So. The Noob Painter says, where does the Lord of the Ring tabletop game take place again? Osgiliath? Yes, it did. Parts of it did. Yes, Osgiliath is parts of the places that it did take place. Indeed. Legionnaire says, anyone excited for Night Vault? I'm so ready to see the next set of warbands. Yeah, I mean, they've showed off I think the two that are going to be, if there is, I think there's going to be a main box, and they showed off the two that are going to be in the main box. I am also very excited to see what's coming next. I'm really hoping, like I said, for some lizardmen, lizard people, lizard folk, Seraphon technically, because I just want to paint some of those guys. But yeah, it's interesting because I went to the press event on Wednesday night at Nova, and people kind of just like outright asked. They're like, is this going to be completely backwards compatible with Shadespire? Now, and they said yes. Now, here's the thing that's going to be weird is that the game is going to still probably be known as Shadespire for a long time, even though technically they really should have tried to push, if at all possible, marketing-wise, they really should have tried push in getting everybody to call it Warhammer Underworlds, because now you're going to go to a Shadespire convention, but everybody might be playing Night Vault or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you could be playing whichever, but because Shadespire is the first expansion, that's what everybody calls it now, kind of, and so... You know what I mean? like technically you're not necessarily like if you're playing the new armies, you're technically playing a different. Yeah, it was kind of a weird marketing thing. It's kind of like when Apple decided at one point to like they made the iPad 2, and then the new iPad instead of the iPad 3, and everyone was like, "Oh, you mean the iPad 3?" And so, yeah, it's sometimes you got marketing issues, and it's difficult to make the people do what you want. So sometimes you have to sort of just do what they want. Anyway, but I'm looking forward to it. I really am. Will you be doing any reviews of the new Rogue Trader box set? No, they haven't sent it to me or anything like that. I'm not super in love with the models, to be honest with you. I'm really glad that they made an expansion like this so that you can add on to it and go that direction. I'm super glad. But two things. Number one is the Rogue Trader, because it's on a spaceship, seems to be very flat. You're playing on that board, and it seems to be very flat, like very one-dimensional. There's bulkheads and stuff like that, but there's not like upper levels and climbing and stuff as far as like I could see yet. There's no reason you can't take the people from the Rogue Trader expansion and put them into the regular terrain from the regular thing or whatever. But the main, that, whatever they call it, game area, kill area, whatever they call that set, I forget exactly what they call the sets. Just, it's very, very, very not one-dimensional. That wouldn't make any sense. Two-dimensional as opposed to three-dimensional. And it's just not for me. Like I said, those models, I don't know, it's something about the models just are not lighting a fire on me. So I probably won't get it, most likely. So yeah, I guess that's the answer, I suppose. Let's see here. You quite often say you play skirmish games. Which of them would you recommend? If you're looking for, right now I'm actually playing this afternoon. I'm playing Kill Team. Kill Team is kind of my jam right now as far as skirmish games are concerned. Otherwise, I'm also, I think that if you don't like Games Workshop stuff at all, if you're like totally like, just like I'm done with Space Marines, I just don't want to, or whatever the deal is, or you're just not into sci-fi or whatever, then I would say Malifaux is another great skirmish game. The models are spectacular, sometimes a little fiddly to build, but not always. Very, very well sculpted, nice plastic. The game mechanics are very interesting because they're very different than a lot of other games. You basically don't use dice. It's using cards, and the cards are great because it's like a deck of normal cards, right? And you're playing that, but you have a hand of cards. So if at some point you need to shoot somebody or whatever, so you throw down off the top of your deck that you don't, not your hand, not the cards in your hand, but your deck. You pick the top card off the deck and you lay it down, and it's a number and a suit. And then your opponent who you're shooting at does the same. And let's say that it's almost like a game of war. Like they've got a higher score than you do, so therefore you miss with your shot. But you've got these cards in your hand, and you can do what's called cheating fate, where you can be like, well, I pulled down a 9, he pulled down a 10, but I have a jack here in my hand. So you can play that jack from your hand, and then they get a chance to also cheat fate. But if they can't pull it off, then technically you win. So it's like a dice rolling game, except that there are a finite number of dice rolls, because it's a 52 card deck, and also you have like 5 or 6 of them or whatever it was. I haven't played in a while, but you have a certain number of them in your hand, so you can kind of go, oh, I know what I can do with that. And so yeah, Malifaux is a good skirmish game as well, and it's pretty popular. Otherwise, if you're looking for more post-apocalyptic, I'm a big fan of Wreckage. So is moderator Matt here. Wreckage is a great post-collapse, post-apocalyptic, whatever you want to call it, skirmish game. Great set of models. You can use whatever models you want, but they have a huge selection of metal models. And fun. I like the dice system a lot because it's like your target number is always kind of your target number, and that's really easy to keep track of. It's just as you get better at any specific skill, you get to throw more dice, which means you have more chances to hit the target number, that kind of stuff. So it's a good game. Those are the games that I'm kind of big into as far as skirmish. Like I said, I don't really play Malifaux as much as I used to because there's not as many people around here to play it, but I still think it's a great game. Otherwise, it's Kill Team and Wreckage, really. Let me see. What else have we got here? Dominic says, literally just made my first mini in about 30 years. The free Knight Incantor from the Warhammer magazine. Cool. I saw that. I saw that model. It's cool. Textured the base with your baking soda technique. Love the vids. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Devin Jones says, I love the cheat mechanic in Malifaux. Yeah, I think it's really smart. Not only is it smart, but because of the sort of vaguely steampunkish, slightly weirdly old West, it's very thematic as well, you know? Yeah, it's cool. Zombie Boy says, you can definitely feel the Shadespire influence in Kill Team. Those developers must be on for a good Christmas bonus. Yeah, I'll bet. I mean, man, the stuff that's been coming out of GW lately has really been killing it, and they are doing, I think, surprisingly, even to themselves, surprisingly well. I hung out a little bit at Kill Team. I hung out a little bit at Nova with Pete Foley on Saturday night, and also Rob, and they both had worked on quite extensively on 8th edition 40k, and so that was kind of nice to kind of hang out and talk with those guys a little bit. Pete took a picture of me and Rob and him and put it on his Twitter. If you follow Pete on Twitter, I was referred to as the Tabletop Minions guys. So I think because there was a whole bunch of us sitting at the table and they kind of came up and joined. Anyway, let me see what else. What else have we got? VJ Morph says my copy of Blitzbowl has arrived and I can't wait to play that. Yeah, I got a copy of that and I want to go through it and talk about, because I do want to do a video about, like, if you're trying to get your kids in, even though I don't have kids, but if you're trying to get your kids into wargaming, like what you can do. And some of these games I think that are designed to aim a little bit more towards younger people, I think can work out real well. Greetings from Italy. I've painted a few scenic bases a few years ago, and I've added some PVA fake snow on it. Is there any way I can remove only the snow without ruining the whole base? Ooh, that's a tough one. I think that because it's PVA though with glue. If it was CA with snow or with baking soda or fake snow or whatever you're going to use, that'd be way harder. PVA may not, but I mean you're still going to probably bang up your paint job pretty badly. Like there's not a great way to get it off without messing up the paint job, I don't think. That's kind of tough, yeah. Hey, Engineer Jeff is here. Tuning in for Uncle Adam's Nova Booty Hangout. There you go, see. Eric Brown says, will you be getting Speed Freaks? I kind of hope so. It looks amazing. Actually, Sam and I during Nova talked quite a bit about it. Sam is super looking forward to painting it because he's a big Orc fan and always has been, and he's been looking at the models, and he's like, yeah, I kind of really want to get my hands on some of those. So yeah, definitely. Let's see here. It's priming season in Turin, Italy. My first mod ever. Three chainsword wielding Mark III Space Marines. Well, that's going to be good. Yeah. Cool. Randall says, heard good things about this year's Nova. Yeah. I mean, it was my first time. It was a really great convention. It is very different from every other convention that I've gone to in a bunch of different ways. Number one was layout. When you go to, like, let's see, where have we been this year? A bunch of places. But like LVO, Origins, and and Adepticon. And didn't end up doing those in order, and that's what screwed me up. But yeah, so LVO, Adepticon, Origins, all three of them, the big kind of main area of the entire convention is laid out very much the same. It's one humongous giant room, generally, which they kind of put the vending stuff in the middle, and then that can kind of cut it in half. So you've with Adepticon, you've got like on one half of that giant room, let's say this screen up here was a giant room, one big huge portion of it is like giant 40k tournament, and all that kind of stuff. And then over here in this section over here is like Shadespire and Fantasy Flight stuff like X-Wing and whatever and all that kind of stuff. And then this little middle strip, right there, this middle strip is like the vending, okay? And so when the vendor hall closes, then they can put those dividers in, and then you have to kind of go out in the main hallway. You have to go out the main hallway, and then walk up, and then come back in to get into the other room, because those rooms are open quite late into the evening. But the middle part's closed off. LVO kind of does the same thing, and so did Origins. But it's a huge room. Nova Open is very, very vertical. Like the basement is the vendor area, and nothing is square. Everything's kind of angular and interesting that way. There there in the basement there were also some side rooms where they were playing like Lord of the Rings stuff. They were playing a bunch of Fantasy Flight stuff in these kind of offshoot big kind of ballrooms. So there was plenty of space, but it was very different than most other places. Then the first floor was where the main like kind of gaming stuff was. And again, it was, instead of being one big room with like a huge like really high ceiling like a lot of these conventions are, it was a series of smaller rooms that all connect but keep going and going and going way off into the building. And that was where the majority of the 40K and all that kind of stuff was. And it was amazing. And then, the next floor, which is the second floor, was like the hobby hangout area and a bunch of other stuff and whatnot, and some kill team and a bunch of other stuff. And then the third floor was when you started getting into seminars and all that kind of stuff. And then there was, I think, actually a couple other vendor booths up there as well. And then after that, then it was mostly like hotel stuff. But then there was a big lobby area. There were, food trucks outside. I didn't go outside much because the entire time I was there, it was like 95 degrees Fahrenheit and like high 90s for humidity. It was slightly horrific. Saturday was not too bad. That was the one day that I really kind of went outside a bit. A friend of mine came and picked me up, and we drove around a little bit and looked at a bunch of old buildings. She's lived in the area now. She's originally from here, but she lived in the area for, I don't know, like 12 years or something like that. So drove by and looked at some houses that were built in the 1700s, one that was built in the 1600s. That was cool. Went and had lunch, caught up and stuff like that. But yeah, a lot of fun. So it was pretty cool. It was a really good convention. The other thing that makes them very different than most other conventions is it's all completely for charity. The charities that they're raising money for are Doctors Without Borders and the Breast Cancer Research Fund or Foundation. I can't remember. It's BCRF. And then also Fisher House. So, everybody who's working there is a volunteer, but that's not strange for most conventions. But then it's also, like, all the money. Like, they have this huge raffle for all this stuff that gets donated. All that money goes to charity. They have a huge silent auction. All that money goes to the charity. Pretty much any money that's left over after expenses goes to charity. And then lastly, another thing that's very different from this convention than others is that there's basically a bar, like the lounge, that is run by the volunteers. And from what I could tell, all the booze and the beer and the soda and everything, even the snacks, I think, were all donated. So you went up to the roof, not actually outside of the roof, that would have been way too hot. We all would have died. But you go up to the roof level, and from like 11 o'clock in the morning until like 1:30 at night, it's open, and you're drinking for charity. You're buying drinks and stuff like that, but they're cheaper than pretty much any other drinks in the DC area. But still, it's all going to charity. So of course you got to have some cocktails or 12 or whatever. So that's good, but it can have some bad effects. If you're smart, which I'm not, evidently, you can steer through that rocky ocean. But I had some rough mornings. Sam had some rough mornings. Some other people that we hung out with had some rough mornings. But it was, it's for charity. So, but it was a lot of fun. It was a really, really cool. It was a really cool convention. Really great. Enjoyed it quite a bit. Let's see here. What else? And I'll show you some stuff in a little bit. I'm just going to catch up here with the chat. Randall says, sounds like a good way to host a con. Seems like crushing crowds in hallways would be less of a problem. Food trucks. Yeah, there was this place outside that was called DC Slices, because it's like I looked it up on the map. We were like 5 miles from the White House. We were technically in Northern Virginia, but we were like 5 miles from the White House. So we were right in the DC area. And there was this place called DC Slices that had a truck. Sam and I both went out there multiple times, and it was quite lovely. Let me see. What else have we got? Got a bunch of chat back and forth to people. That's cool. Glad to hear it. Randall says, the charity aspect is a great idea. Good for Nova. Yeah, I agree. Definitely. Absolutely. Sammy Hinchy says, donated beer? Yeah. And because it's the East Coast, I was most of the week until we ran out of it, I was drinking Yingling, which is... I think it's from the Philly area, but you can. I can't get it here in Wisconsin, which for a beer is crazy. But every kind of different area of America, kind of at least these days now with the craft brewers getting big, there are some breweries that only distribute in a very small area. Like here in Wisconsin, we've got New Glarus, Spotted Cow, and stuff like that, and that's only available in Wisconsin for the most part. I think it might be starting to ease into the northern part of Illinois as well, but yeah, and Yingling is pretty much only a East Coast thing. And I'm not a big beer drinker particularly, but I do like that stuff quite a bit. It's a lovely lager, I believe. So yeah, that was great. Emily says drinking for charity was hard work. Yes, and you were working hard, and we all appreciate it. Thank you very much for your service. Brian says, I've got models stacking up from Kill Team, Age of Sigmar, Adeptus Titanicus, and now the Middle-earth battle strategy game. And then it scrolled off the top. Sorry. Must find a way to focus. Yeah, I mean, some people... Diesel. Some people could just... sometimes I may have to make a list, you know what I mean? And just be like, this is the priority, and that's the way it's going to go. So yeah, that can work out. Patrick says, Adam, it was really great to meet you after... I think you mean it's something. I'm sorry. Probably after the convention. I apologize for that, not for getting cut off or whatever. But yeah, it was. I met a lot of people at Adept or Nova Open. I met a lot of people at Adepticon too, and LVO, and all the other conventions I've been to this year. And I really like to meet people when I'm at the shows. That's a lot of fun. I really do like talking to people. Sunday I was kind of waiting till I was gonna. Get a lift back to the airport, and I was kind of hanging out in the lobby because I was eating lunch, and I talked to a lot of different people, and it was a very good time. Matthew says, yeah, we used to get Yingling in Chicago. Cody says, I love my Yingling. Not an ad, hashtag not an ad, but I do like that beer quite a bit. It's not technically a craft beer. I get that. I know. Luke says it's from Pittsburgh, which is kind of near Philly. Llama Juice says there is a beer you can't get in Wisconsin. I know, right? I mean, that's crazy. Ernie asks, are you a dark ale or light beer drinker? Generally lighter, partially because I'm trying to watch my girlish figure and whatnot, and my carbs. So there's that. When I do drink, like around here, it's generally lighter stuff. I don't like real hoppy stuff. Just don't like IPAs, and that's just me. Speaking of drinking and wargaming, have you tried Bugman's Ale? Buddy of mine was at Warhammer World. He offered to buy me a case. No, I haven't. I haven't gotten over to England yet. So when I'm there, eventually, I do want to go to Warhammer World, obviously, and I would like to stop by there, and I'd maybe like to have a Bugman's Ale, just so that I can say I can. Kind of like when I was in Vegas, and I gambled $5 on the... these things, the slot machines, so I can say that I did it, and also in Reno, and then also I got to fly out of Reno at very late at night, so I got to take the red eye out of Reno, so I also checked that off my bucket list. It wasn't really on my bucket list, but it made me feel better, because red eyes are not fun. But yes, Plarzoid.com was in one of my seminars. Adam, your seminar was insightful, and it was a pleasure chatting with you for a bit afterwards. Will you return to Nova in 2019? Did you ever get a game of Kill Team in? I did not get a game of Kill Team in. I watched a couple, and but it was one of those situations where there was one point where I was like, okay, maybe if I can find someone to play with real quick, I'll do that. And then I went down to those tables where all that, and then there must have been some sort of event going on because they were all full, so I didn't really bother. But I'm actually doing it. I'm playing a game of Kill Team this afternoon, so I'm looking forward to that. Hey, Christopher Dick. I know Christopher. So yes, it was also nice to meet you as well, Plarzoid.com. And I still have your patch. It's in my backpack. VJ Morph says, I've got Kill Team, Blight War, Gangs of Kamara, and Deathwatch Overkill in my queue currently. Yeah, I've got mostly just Kill Team stuff right now because you guys have seen pictures of the stuff that's primed. I started working on Necrons yesterday. Painted them, airbrushed them all silver-ish. And now I'm doing washes and stuff like that. I'm hoping that I can get them done in time for my game today at 3, but we'll see. I do not have lunch with the in-laws today because my wife is gone. She has gone to a small little local convention she's more into yarn and stuff. And so she went with some friends to go do that. And so we're not going to lunch at her parents'. So I'll have time to paint after the show. which I'm looking forward to. But if I don't make it, if I don't get them done, then I'm probably just bring my regular chaos. But I also started. What else did I do yesterday? Oh, I also worked on after I got them airbrushed silver and stuff, and I cleaned up my brush real good because metallics, and then I started work on my Black Templar kill team, which was also primed black and all ready to go. And I used a color Vallejo Model Air, either black gray or gray black. I don't remember which one. Anyway, I mean it's but so I airbrushed them from above with that color so that it kind of fades more from a very dark black or very very dark gray to black. And then the first thing I'm going to do is put a wash over it, like a black wash, maybe dark brown. I'm not 100% sure yet. That will start to, I want to have a very subtle kind of highlight because it's black. Working with black is difficult. I don't want to, on these guys, do the, like, super light kind of, like, edge highlighting kind of situation. I'm trying to get away from that. We'll see. It'll be fun, though. Patrick says, shout out to Nova Open. I brought my 6-year-old son and he had a blast. Everyone was super nice, especially the gentleman from Fantasy Flight who ran our Legion demo. Yeah, they were playing Legion. They were running a bunch of stuff. They were running Destiny, X-Wing. It was the last like big X-Wing event of 1.0. The next event, I think, might be a LVO, and that might be the next. But this was like Nationals. Someone told me. So this was like the last big Nationals in 1.0, and I don't know if there's going to be a big event at LVO for X-Wing. It'll be 2.0 or not. There might be another one coming up someplace else, but I was told by a couple people that this was like the last big Nationals event for 1.0, so that's cool. Will you make any battle reports on the channel? I've made one so far of Wreckage. I've got to make the second one. We shot 2. And the second one I have to edit. There was a crazy audio issue that I have to go through a lot of weird hoops, jump through those hoops, as it turns out, to get the audio to work on that particular recording. And so I just need to sit down and do it. I don't know if any of you are old enough, but when I was younger, if you wanted to like record a tape, you had to have one of those boom boxes or whatever that had 2 tape decks, and you had to put the tape you wanted to record off of into one, and then the blank one, and then you had to play from here and record there. It's kind of like that. The recorder that I use to record the bat rep records onto an SD card. I can play it on the recorder. Sounds great. Everything's fine. I take that SD card out, put it in my computer. My computer's like, no, I don't know what that's... Because I didn't format it first. I had just gotten this recorder. So it's on the recorder, but I can't get it off of the recorder via the SD card. So what I have to do is I have to plug my other digital recorder into the first recorder, hit play on the... and then record it, which is what I had to do with the first. So it's going to take some time, but I want to get that done very soon. And then I do want to do some battle reports for probably Kill Team, honestly. I'm having a lot of fun with it, and it's nice and small. So it's going to be easier, I think, to shoot, and the games are shorter, which is also a benefit. So that's kind of my thing right now. Frankie Lee Bailey says, watching on the phone this week, so I might not say much. Well, you've said that, so that's pretty cool. Welcome, Frankie Lee Bailey. What else? Finley says, would a black primer work with a white wash on a model? There's not a lot of white washes out there. Like I have a parchment color wash, but it's a Secret Weapon Miniatures wash. It's not really a wash. It's technically a glaze. Secret Weapon washes, which I love, are technically glazes. They're not really washes. So I don't know what a white glaze, really, in this situation, on a black primer would do. That's a good question. I don't know. Jesse Daniels says, thinking of paint and humidity, someone posted to the paint group about issues of flooding in some friendly local game store. Goblin Games in the Manhattan area was flooded out, it seems. Yeah, we had some, not around here so much we didn't have flooding, like some people had water in their basement and stuff like that, but I know that down in the Madison area, there was a lot of flooding. One of the big game store distributors, which is a company called ACD, they're a distribution company based out of Madison, and one of their big warehouses was flooded, so that was a big issue. So yeah, that was a bummer. Saint Shamrock says, I just bought Dark Imperium box set. I'm new to the hobby. Am I a day late and $1 short? Just started painting them, worried. No, absolutely not. some people, I've had some people reach out to me and go, so people don't play 40K anymore, and now everyone's playing Kill Team, right? And that's not the case at all. They're very, they use the same models, but they're very different games. If you want to play a small little game that's sort of quick, and you maybe use like 6, 8, 10, 12, 15 models, depending on the army, then Kill Team is the way to go. If you like playing bigger battles, Dark Imperium, like that, you get the Primaris Marines and you get the Death Guard. That's also the way to go. The trick is that there's no reason you can't use the Death Guard and the Primaris Marines that are in the Dark Imperium box, and as you paint them up and you get 6 or 7 of them done, you could start playing Kill Team with them if you want to. That's kind of the idea, is that the things are very compatible. But you're never too late for any of these things, frankly. If you've got people to play with, whether you have to teach them how to play or whether they're already playing and you're now joining them, you're always on time as far as that's concerned. So don't worry about that. I would definitely, I've got a Kill Team that I've built of the Plague Marines. Some of them are the ones from the Dark Imperium box, and some of them are from the press fit, like little 3-man boxes that they sell for like $15. It's kind of a little mixture, I think, if I remember correctly. But yeah, no, it's the reason they made Kill Team was to get people who didn't want to buy a big box or a huge amount of models like you might have in a normal 40K game, or a game like Dark Imperium, which is 40K, but that box. It's designed to kind of ease people into it, with the idea that down the road you'd be like, well, I've got some of these guys. Why don't I buy some vehicles and a plane and all this other junk, and now I've got a full 40K army. I mean, that's kind of what they're doing. So yeah, definitely not a problem. Michael Strange says, yes, I'm old enough to recall that audio setup. Making mixtapes was an art form with a dual cassette player. Yes, I agree, it was. Yeah, so that's the issue with that particular thing, and I need to fix that soon. Headhunter says, I heard all the Kill Team players had to stay in the basement because Nova rules kept them from going up to the second floor. Well, because technically the Kill Team stuff was taking place on the first floor. The basement was like the vending area, the vendor area. So I hadn't heard that. Marcus says, if there was a functional whitewash, it would effectively give the reverse effect of what a wash is intended to do. Yeah, that's very true. Like the parchment wash from Secret Weapon Washes, which again, like I said, is a glaze. Parchment wash is probably one of my favorite things they make. I use it on terrain and vehicles all the time. What it does is I use like a big broad brush, and I kind of brush it onto buildings and other terrain like that, kind of from top down. And it just makes this sort of like streaky, sort of sun-bleached kind of look to things, and it works great. It does such a great job. Super big fan of that stuff. I actually I just made an order of that from them recently. I just ordered some terrain from Secret Weapon. I should have thrown a couple of bottles of parchment in there. That was a dumb move. Anyway, I'll have to pick some up. When's the next time I'm going to see their stuff? Probably Adepticon. Hopefully I can make it till Adepticon. PJ Morph says, Adam, it sounds like your computer isn't reading the file system of the SD card. You can probably get an app that might let you view the file format, or try it in a different system, maybe a Mac. That's a good point. I hadn't thought of using a Mac. I could plug it in at work and see if I can get it there. That's a good point. I'll try that too, because that would just save me 40 minutes. Because because otherwise it's just, basically I just go to the studio, I plug these machines together, I hit play, and then I go do something else for a while. Legionnaire says, ACD flooded? Well, I guess the Southern Game Store better get used to not carrying anything from them for a while, because I never hear good things about how they treat local game stores on product delivery. I just telling you what I hear from my local store, and he said that that the ACD warehouse it had been flooded. Not like terrible, but I think a lot of stuff on bottom shelves of racking probably did not make it in some situations, but that's all I really know. I believe they've started sending stuff out again, so they've kind of gotten that on board. But I'm sure that there was a lot of water damage and stuff like that. I've been to that location because I went with my friend who owns a game store. They have what they call ACD Games Day, where you like the store owners and stuff like that will come and take some seminars and learn some stuff and talk to manufacturers at the trade show and all that kind of stuff, and it's really cool. And then usually on Friday, if you want, they've got a big cookout at the facility where and the warehouse, and then you can go through and actually shop in the warehouse and say, I want these, and then they'll ship them to you like they do the normal stuff. But it's kind of nice to see the actual location. So. Let me see. David Jordan says, I played my first few games of Kill Team with my Space Hulk Gene Stealers. Well, that's a good idea. Those are good sculpts. I like those. Matthew Sears says, Secret Weapon Miniatures kicked in their entire line of washes for the Dragonfall charity auction. Well, that's really cool. And then I should just win that, according to Matthew. So yeah, there's a convention coming up soon in the kind of Chicago-y area called Dragonfall, which is basically just a straight-up miniatures convention. Although I think there's also some video game stuff going on there as well, but it's mostly miniatures, from what I understand. Dragonfall. So take a look for it, or Matthew can probably put a link in the chat thing here to Dragonfall. If you're in the area, you can. It's a good convention. I'm hoping to maybe go, but I don't know yet. I got to double check on schedules around here. Yes. What else have we got? Zombie Boy, I found that the specialist Kill Team individuals are currently sold out at GWs and stockists. Specialist Kill Team individuals. I guess I don't know what those are. I'll have to look into that. Dick says that I'll be at Dragonfall doing the 2 Gentlemen's and Gaslands on Saturday. Well, that sounds like fun. Yeah, I haven't really played. We've played a little bit of Gaslands since TMX, but not much. I would like to have played more. Christopher Dick says hoping to make it to Dragonfall. That's cool. Turns out it's dragon-fall.com. Well, there you go. That's pretty simple. What else? Roongadi. Hello, sir. Do you know of a good model to use as a nightmare with a necromancer as a rider? Nightmare with a necromancer as a rider. Well, I mean, the Hex Wraiths from Games Workshop are ghostly kind of horses. They might work well. But then you'd have to probably modify the rider, because the Hex Wraith riders, I think, are all skeletons. So you'd have to put something else on that, some way to do it. That's the only thing I can think of really off the top of my head, as it were. Yeah. Ernie Jr. says, what brand of washes do you use? Thinking of grabbing some Vallejo. I use a lot of different washes. I use Games Workshop washes. I use Army Painter washes sometimes. I use Secret Weapon washes, which are technically, like I've said, more of a glaze, but I still like them quite a bit. I do use Vallejo a little bit here and there, too. I've got, like, pale gray. If you're ever trying to paint white, Vallejo wash pale gray is kind of the trick, in my opinion. Like, because it's so pale that you put it over white, and then it just kind of gets in the crevices, and then maybe you have to touch up a little bit and a little edge highlight or something like that. I think that's, yeah, it works really well. So there's a bunch of different washes from different manufacturers for different needs, you know what I mean? Some of them are thicker, some of them are thinner. Most of the GW ones are quite thin, and they are working a little bit more like what I expect a wash to work like. But the washes from Army Painter are a little bit thicker, and then again, because they're glazes, the ones from Secret Weapon washes are actually a good deal thicker, but they're really designed a little bit more, like if you want to use them like a GW wash, you have to thin them, in my opinion. But if you want to use them like I have sprayed my models black and then dusted them from white and given them that kind of zenithal type of highlighting, and then I just want to paint this cloak green, then you just throw the green stuff on top of it, the green, whatever green color you pick from the Secret Weapon washes, and then it just coats perfectly and looks like you were super good at like wet blending, you know what I mean? It's the way it works. So yeah. Sam Lenz will be at Dragonfall. That is true. He's looking forward to it. Let me see here. Dragonfall's in Elmhurst, Illinois. Do you have a good recommendation for a first con to attend for someone in central Wisconsin area? Well, if you want to wait till June of next year, there's going to be Tabletop Minions Expo 2019 in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Dates really close to being tied down. I'm going to hopefully be able to publish it next week, and but it'll be the very early first or second weekend in June. Otherwise, it's not very much miniatures related, but in February coming up in Manitowoc, Wisconsin, there is Fire and Ice. There's a little bit of miniature stuff going on. There's usually a 40K tournament that happens on Sunday every year. Has been going on for, I don't know, more than a decade. So if you're not into tournaments, that's not necessarily going to help. But there's some other stuff going on. Otherwise, if you also like games like role-playing games, board games, and stuff like that, and CCGs and whatever, they've got all that stuff going on there too. It's called Fire and Ice in Manitowoc. I'd take a look up that one. That one is usually the last weekend in February. So it'll be coming up in 2019. Let's see here. Army Painter washes are really great, especially if you use wash mixing medium. Oh, I haven't tried that. Currently filing, not filling. Currently filing, or is it filling? Oh no, it is filling. Currently filling 12 Necron Warriors shoulder sockets. Necron Warriors shoulder sockets. That's hard. With blue tack for spray paint priming. Yeah, I do that a lot too. Oh yeah, and then Wapaka is coming up too. Wapaka that's pretty much just a straight miniatures convention that happens in, strangely enough, Wapaka, Wisconsin, like in very early 2019, I think. January? It might be January. I think last year I couldn't go because I was at LVO, so I'll have to check and see if it's the same time this year or not, because LVO's in February this year. But yeah. Let's talk about some of the things I brought back. I have a very crinkly plastic bag, which is always fun. Makes great audio. Let's see here. Let's just reach into bag randomly and see what I find. Oh yeah. So there was a company there, a vendor called White Metal Games, and White Metal Games is kind of mostly they're not like a store, they're mostly kind of commission painting, but they do a lot of different stuff too. They had a booth. These are from Spellcrow, and they are basically bits. These are out of focus. These are skin tabards. You can't really barely see them in there. So like they're little resin, like you would glue them like in between the legs on like let's say a Space Marine or whatever, and it kind of looks like a piece of skin that like a Chaos guy's torn off of somebody or whatever, and then it's decided to make a loincloth of it, which seems super disrespectful, but anyway. And then this is also from Spellcrow that I picked up at White Metal Games, and it's just a bunch of like flat skulls, like for gluing onto the sides of things, as opposed to like a box of skulls or a bag of skulls. This is like flat decorative skulls. Just not wanting to focus. There you go. Yeah. And there's a bunch of them in there. It's pretty cool. Spellcrow makes a bunch of cool resin stuff. That's all kinds of junk. This bag smells weird. The Bits guy, which is from, there's the Toledo Game Store, I think it's called, or the Toledo Game Room. They're in Toledo. And he shows up to lots of miniatures conventions. He was at Gen Con, he was at Origins, which neither of those are really miniatures conventions, but he's always at Adepticon. I don't remember if he was at LVO this year, and he's also going to Nova. And what he does is, and I've talked about it in the past, he just has all these huge like Rubbermaid containers, like the ones that go under your bed, you keep like shoes and stuff in, and each one is labeled like Orcs or Tau or Space Marines or whatever, and it's just filled with tiny little plastic bags full of bits. These are scything talons, big ones, for Tyranids. And I bought a lot of scything talons because I want to build a lictor for my kill team, and I don't like the current model. So I'm going to use a Broodlord and modify him and give him cool spiky talons. And I bought a bunch of those just so that I had the right size. They're all different shapes and angles and sizes. I want to make sure I get it right. And I even bought little tiny ones too. And so I bought a bunch of those. That was all I did for bits this year. Sometimes I go crazy with bits. Like back when Adepticon was still in Lombard, I went nuts with... I spent probably like almost $150 one year at Adepticon just on bits. Like one night I showed up to the bits thing because he stays open all night long. you know, so it's 3 o'clock in the morning, you come down from the hotel room, and then you sit there and you just rifle through giant piles of bits. And then I had like $70 worth of bits when it was all added up. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. I spent so much on bits. That's crazy. And then the next night I came back and spent $80. Like an idiot. So anyway, that's what I did. There was a company there called Dad's Army. And he was just selling a bunch of other stuff. But he also has like a 3D scanner, and he was scanning people's heads. And then he would put that head onto figures that like 3D figures he's already got, and then 3D print them and then mail them to you. So he was doing that, but he was also selling a bunch of other stuff. This is from Green Stuff World, and it is a clear plastic, like acrylic, almost like a rolling pin, and it makes like a mesh kind of thing. So if you're making your own base, you throw like some green stuff on top of your base before you put the model on there, obviously, and then you just roll this across it, and it will make it look like it's like a sci-fi kind of a mesh sort of situation. And there's also something else in here that goes with that, and I can't find it now. Oh, here. These are called silicone rolling rings, and what they are designed to do is you put the one on to the ends of the... so you put one on each end of the rolling pin thing, so that it is the right height for how thick your base is. So, because the thing is, if you put green stuff on there and you just use this rolling pin, you have to be very careful to do it straight, because you're rolling it over something that's raised. You could tip it this way or that way, and then you get more texture on one side and less on the other. You put these rolling rings on to this, and now it stays flat as you roll across, and you don't have to worry about it. And I already own a couple of these, like a cobblestone one and stuff like that, but the rings are new, so I was super glad to get that, and I didn't have anything sci-fi, so that was cool too. There's a company there called Game Envy, and they make something called the Hobby Holder. So you can kind of see from the picture here, if I can get the reflections to stop. It's a thing, you take like a regular bottle cap from like a 2-liter bottle or a 20-ounce soda or whatever, you blue tack or glue or whatever your model, onto this bottle cap. And then you screw said bottle cap onto this part, and now you have a way to hold on to your model. Let me I've got a second one, because this one I was given as a gift for being a seminar teacher, and I also got something else as a gift as well. Previous to that, though, sorry for all the rustling. Previous to that, though, I bought one, and of course I bought it in red and black because of the channel. That thing right there. So let me show it to you. I'll get it out of this bag. Okay. So this is what it looks like, and you just would blue tack or poster putty or glue or whatever your model onto a normal, like a, I think there's one in here actually, like a soda, thing. Okay, so here's the cap from your soda bottle, and then you attach the person to it and then screw it on to this thing. Okay, so now it's attached to that, right? So now you've got the small handle to hold on to your model, which is not as nice as like a big model, but you don't generally hold it like this. Okay, what you generally do is you hold it like this. So let me grab this model. Let's pretend this model was actually attached. Okay, so you see what you're doing there? You've got this piece now where you can be holding the model, not just from the bottom like you do with most of them. You can actually be holding it a little bit more comfortably like this and painting like this. And it's just kind of a neat concept. Made by a company called Game Envy, and it's called a Hobby Holder. And they come in tons of different colors. This one, the reason I got red and black is because, like I said, the channel, but they had blues and greens and yellows and metallics and all kinds of shenanigans. But yeah, super cool stuff. More rustling. This is it's a company called Grex that makes airbrushes. I did not buy one of their airbrushes, but allegedly this rubbery kind of holder thing is supposed to be pretty... There's that pickup truck I was talking about before. Somebody needs to get their belts tightened. Anyway, so yeah, this grip is like rubbery, and it's supposed to be relatively universal. So we'll see if it fits on my Iwata brush. What else? Well, this is some random stickers. Oh, and then I stopped by the Games and Gears booth. Games and Gears was there. And they make a lot of different stuff, but one of the things they make is brushes. And I like their brushes. So they come in these little pouches. they're great for traveling. So here's your brush. And now you'd say, but Adam, there's no brush, you know. Well, there you go. You do that, and now you've got a brush. This one is, I think, I bought a set of synthetics, and I bought a set of, and this is a, what size? This is a 0. This set comes with a 0, a double 0, and a triple 0. But yeah, they're nice brushes. This is a set of synthetics. I also bought a set of Kolinsky Sable from them. But they're great for traveling and also for staying at home. So I bought those 2 sets, and also, it's in there, this. So this is brush soap, and it comes, this is the soap part here, but it also has this sort of squishy silicone holder thing, so the soap doesn't get all over your stuff, and then you can just slide it in there, and then you just brush, you know, the way it's got this notch here, you just brush the soap, or you brush your brush across it when it's wet and get some soap, and then you kind of clean it out. And so yeah, they had like a deal where you got basically, you know, the synthetics and the synthetic and the sable and the soap as all one kit, and that was great. One of the last things I mentioned before that I had a present, because I was teaching a seminar, I was given a present of these things from Game Envy, the hobby holder. Got one of those, even though I'd already just bought one. That's fine. And then the other thing that I was given as a present was this. I don't know if you guys saw the Kickstarter for this, like last year at some point, but it's this French company called Redgrass, and they make this everlasting wet palette. And the one that I originally saw was red and a good deal smaller than this, probably half the size. This is the humongous Studio XL one, so that was very nice of them. I have not yet tried it yet because I'm still using my current one downstairs, and right now I don't actually, this is so big I don't really have room on my table for it because I really need to be cleaning my painting table. But yeah, it was very nice of them to give us like everybody, like Sam got it, like everybody who was a seminar teacher got the hobby holder thing and one of these, and so that was very nice. I did not buy a lot more. I didn't really buy much. I did not want to buy anything big because I had to get it on the plane. So yeah, nothing. I couldn't. Like there was a couple of things actually at that White Metal Games booth where I was like, oh, that looks really cool. Like they had a bunch of stuff they were selling, like pre-built things, and they're also, like I said, being a commission studio, they had some other things. They had a knight that was all magnetized but unpainted, and I was like really kind of interested in it. And by knight I mean Imperial Knight. But I was like, I can't get that on the plane. That's just not going to work. Oh, I just forgot. One other thing I did buy was I bought a set of Skitarii infiltrators that were already pre-built, the real skinny kind of guys. I wanted to add those to my kill team at some point, but I was like, man, I just hadn't built them. And for $30, there were 5 of them that were already built, so I didn't have to. So all I have to do is like scrape the mold lines, because the person who originally built them and then dumped them didn't really scrape the mold lines very well. So I got to scrape mold lines and then texture the bases and then prime them and go. So they were hard to get into the luggage because they're very spindly and delicate, but I was able to pull it off. But yeah, that's the trick. I just, I couldn't buy too much that was too big because it just wasn't going to work out, because I wasn't going to be able to get it back into my luggage. So, all right, let me see here. Yeah, the model holder does look tight. It's just kind of nice. I mean, like, I still like I do like the GW kind of pinchy ones. I like the handle a lot more. I wish there was a way I could get the handle onto this, so sometimes I could hold it like this, with the bigger handle, and then other times I could kind of hold it like this. And then this rotates, like this whole thing here, because this just pops off if I just refun it. Like, these are 2 parts, okay? So if there's at some point a time when you need to turn it upside down, like if your model, if you want your model on that, then your model will fall off if you're a doofus like me. But yeah, so if you've got it like this upside down, you could be holding it and painting like this, but you could also do it above. You've got a lot of options. Again, one of the benefits, because you're going to have to refund to get it off, is you could just unscrew the cap with the guy stuck to it, set it aside, and then pull the thing off like this. And then it goes on tight, but you can do it. It's a neat thing. I don't know. It's a small little company. A guy was 3D printing these, and they did a Kickstarter, and these are not 3D printed. These are injection molded plastic. like, you know, professionally produced or whatever. And pretty much everyone's got, you know, the little soda cap thingies, and so it just worked out nice. Yeah. Now I have to move the stuff, otherwise I can't get to the mouse. There we go. Cool brush soap, says Randall. Yeah, I like that stuff. Adam, any tips for running a social or school club in an environment of people looking to learn? Would Game 4 be a decent platform for inviting locals? Yes, I think so. If you were to make a group in the groups and clubs part of Game 4 and then start telling people around you about Game 4 so they can start finding out about it and kind of coordinating. Anybody that's in your local group, if it's through a social or a school club, tell them about it, then they've got an easy place to message. That they don't have to, like, because technically, like, younger kids, from what I understand, are not really paying a lot of attention to Facebook and stuff like that, so it's not a bad way to do it. Yeah. Hello, all from Central Scotland. Sorry I'm late. Had to deliver an apple crumble to my grandfather for Sunday dinner. Well, that was very nice. I kind of want an apple crumble now. Bob Garrett says that arm on your paint stand was more designed to help you steady your brush when detail painting. Yeah, that makes sense. I can totally see that. Redgrass palette is really good. I have one of the small ones. I'm looking forward to trying it out. Like, honestly, I do think that it's almost a little too big for me, you know, but we'll see. Hello from Cleveland. I was thinking the same thing. We'll attach it to the pinching thing on the Citadel one. That I don't think you could. I don't think you could attach it to the pinchy thing on the Citadel one because the bottom is very kind of rounded and smooth, so there's nothing much to grab. That being said, if you unscrew the handle on the GW one from the pinchy part, there is a screw that holds it to the pinchy part, and from what I understand, that screw is a 1/4-20. Now, a 1/4-20 is a specific pitch and type of screw or whatever, but if any of you are photographers, you're probably familiar with the 1/4-20 because it's the same screw that's on the underside of your camera that you attach to the tripod. So the screw that's coming out of that handle is basically the same screw as that's on a tripod. So for one thing, you could take the handle off the bottom of your GW pinchy thing and screw it under the underside of your camera. I don't know why you would, but you could. But there's a hole, which you can almost see, right? So potentially, if there was a way to, like, if you drilled this out a little bit maybe and put I forget what they're called, but it's like it's like the thread part on the inside. It's not a flange gasket. I don't know. It's one of those things. But if you maybe were able to stick one in there, then you could actually screw the handle from the GW thingy into this and then be set. That being said, the guy from Kit, I think his name was, from Game Envy, is 3D printing handles. And I don't know if he's got it up like on Thingiverse, so if you've got a 3D printer, you could just print your own handle and attach it. But he's going to be, I think, eventually soon also producing and selling handles that will go for this. For the people who want a bigger handle, some people just like doing this and just holding the model like this and painting, you know what I mean? But other people want the bigger kind of, you know, grip. So I think I would like to have the best of both worlds if at all possible. You know, it's just a thing, but yeah. So there we go. Torch says, the Everlasting Wet Palette is worth the cost then? I was wondering about getting it, but it's really expensive. I don't actually honestly know what the cost is, so I can't answer that. And I haven't used it yet, so I can't answer that either. But it looks cool, and it's got a neat little magnetic tray that goes on the side. So I haven't really... so I don't know yet, but I know that it was nice of them to give me one. Well, not just me. Everybody who was a seminar teacher got one. BJ Morph says, I'll wait on Adam's experience with the Everlasting Wet Palette before I grab one. Gotcha. Devin says, anyone know if Games and Gears sells in the U.S. at all? I'm 90% sure they do. Well, 90 is maybe a strong number. Maybe I'm 80% sure they do. I think they do. But I think it's... I don't know if you have to go through the website direct or if they've got any distribution. That I don't know. I know they have a website. I would check with the website and see if they've got any... Maybe just if they've got a contact thing, maybe send them an email. But I don't 100% know. Level 6. I'm kind of bummed out that the Kill Team starter box seems to be sold out everywhere. Oh, wow. I didn't realize that. Wow. Useful G says, how about the pinchy part on a tripod, hands-free painting? I thought about that. When I took the thing apart and unscrewed it and I realized it was a quarter 20, I was like, I could put the pinchy part onto like a... They do sometimes make... Like, have you ever seen like a gorilla pod? They make these kind of bendy sort of things that are more for tripods. They have a tripod end on them, but it's very bendy. You can put them in different positions and things like that. And I'm thinking like almost like if you wanted to hold a model in a certain spot, and then like this is, and if for like a webcam or for like something like that, that's kind of a neat idea. The fact that it will pinch and hold the model in a certain spot for like a close up or something like that. And so I thought that was a cool idea. Kyle Mason says, having an 8-month-old, I've been using baby food bottles with blue tack to hold the model on top. Almost the same feel as the Citadel holder. Well, that makes sense. I could see that. I've mostly, generally, before the Citadel holders, I usually used to just basically use pill bottles. But now I've been using those Citadel holders. And I had some conversations. Some people were like, well, I really don't like the pinchy part for whatever reason. And I can, it's fine. I like the pinchy part just because then I can't tell you how many models I have right now that have got poster tack, blue tack, whatever, stuck to the underside of the base that I just can't get off. Like, without getting in there and, like, scraping at it with an X-Acto blade for, like, an hour, it's just there's residue stuck underneath because I either took too long to paint it, it was stuck for too long, or whatever. And so I like that pinch part because it's very quick and easy, and I haven't had it ever, like, let anything go, so it works. And when it comes down to it's now time to paint the base around the rim, around the edge, and obviously the pinchy part's now holding on to that edge. I almost always, even when I was painting on a bottle, or like a pill bottle with a poster putty, I would take it off that pill bottle before I would paint the rim, and then I just use like one of those little cheapy little cotton gloves for like holding on to stuff that you don't want to get your finger creases on, and I would just put one of those in my left hand and hold on to the model, and then just paint around the rim, using the side of the brush and using Reaper brush on black primer. That's what I always use in my paint, my edges of my paints, or my edges of my bases, and that's how I always did it. So taking it off the pinchy thing's no problem around. Kelly says, Adam, any experience with the Batman miniatures game? Good system, anyone? I know some guys up in the Minneapolis area who used to be fantasy players, and then fantasy stopped, and they switched to Infinity, but then started to come back because Age of Sigmar was not as bad as they thought, and so they were playing a lot of Age of Sigmar, but they also play Infinity, but they also play a lot of Batman. So I do know guys that play Batman. I've not played it, so I don't know anything about the rule set. I know the models are pretty interesting. I do know that there's some people in the Milwaukee area that play it, but like there's nobody up here. From what I've heard, pretty decent. Other people in the chat might be able to tell you. I know that there's probably somebody else in the chat that's on that. Kelly says, Kelly makes a joke about the everlasting wet palette, about how it'll be long. It'll be here long after we're gone because it's everlasting. See, get it? People talking about different types of wet palettes. I get that. Blake Gaskins asks, how about that Age of Sigmar Champion CCG, Adam? There was a booth at Nova that was, I don't know if they were selling it or just doing demos or what. I think that if you sat down and did a demo, they gave you like a deck. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not a big card player, so I did not do it. I didn't sit down to it. But I know that they also, I think they might have debuted either at Gen Con or Origins. But I haven't tried it out. Like I said, not being a big card player much. It's just kind of not my thing. But I think it's cool that they've kind of moved into that area through a different company. I think it's the same company that does Light Seekers, I think. I could be wrong on that, though. Misleading Adventures says, I ordered the smaller Everlasting Wet Palette. Hasn't arrived yet, but to be honest, I feel like it's not going to be worth the price over just getting Tupperware. I don't know. Again, like I said, I don't know what the cost is, so I haven't heard about that. But I'm looking forward to trying it out at the very least. So let me see here. Torch says, I've played Batman. I enjoyed it, but not enough to invest. Oh, I thought you meant there wasn't enough stuff for you to invest in. But you're saying you didn't quite enjoy it enough to actually sit down and invest in. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of games that just just don't strike people's fancy, and and so you can't do it. Yeah, what else? Let's see here. People asking if it's anything like the everlasting gobstopper. I would not put this wet palette in your mouth. I think that would be difficult and problematic. Irrational Gaz. I do really enjoy the Citadel paint handle, but it struggles with larger base sizes. It would be nice if they did one with a manual crank akin to a G clamp. Ooh, that would be kind of cool. Like I don't think I've done a 40 millimeter yet with it. I've been doing 25s and 32s, and it's fine for those. And I think it'll do a 40, but yeah, I could see how it would be kind of stretching it a little bit, like literally, because it's a clamp. So yeah, I'm gonna, when I do my Lictor, my build my own Lictor, that's supposed to be on a 40 millimeter base. So I have to find a 40 millimeter base, which I'm sure I've got one in the basement somewhere. So that's step one. Step two then is build it. I'm going to use the Broodlord kit. Somebody suggested trying to find the Broodlord that came in Operation Overkill, and I looked around on eBay for a bit and couldn't find it, which is fine. So I just bought the regular Broodlord kit. The regular Broodlord kit comes on like a, what do you call it, like a cavalry base, one of those oval ones. So I don't know why. So I'm not going to use that. So the Broodlord kit came, and I'm going to modify that and then put these, I don't know where I put them now. Oh, put some of the big spiky scything, arms on it. Because the Lictor has basically got, like, it looks kind of normal-ish, sort of, like, kind of looks normal as far as Gene Stealers go, or, Tyranids in general. But it does have the big pointy claws, and it does have the kind of Cthulhu face, or the acid maw, or whatever. So I've kind of got to modify that stuff. But I want the Lictor because I think it'd be a lot of fun to have in Kill Team. But it's just the model is the current model is OLD, and I just don't like, and it's in Finecast, and I don't want to mess with that. So anyway, that's why I'm making my own. Let me see here. Boop, boop, ba-doo. Batman minigame just doesn't seem like it has a range. Doesn't has the range in factions/forces to keep me interested for longer than 5 minutes. Yeah, I think it's a very skirmishy type game, and I think that obviously, like if you're into the comics, it helps a lot. I'm sure. But yeah, I think one of the things to me that's slightly attractive about it is that the terrain has to be very, almost like today. It has to be very, not very modern. Like you can do it, but it has to be current. You know what I mean? Like it's not sci-fi terrain. It's not fantasy terrain. It's like, it's Gotham, which basically means New York, and that kind of stuff. And that's never really like something like I've done historical type stuff like World War II ruined buildings and things like that. I've done plenty of fantasy terrain. I've done plenty of sci-fi terrain, but to do like normal buildings, I think would be kind of interesting. So to me, there's that kind of benefit, but I'm not a super huge comic book guy, so it's not really, for me, it's not necessarily the way to go, but it is getting, from what I understand, a bit more popular, so that's cool. Inedible B says, hey Adam, do you think that Star Wars Legion will last? Are there too many skirmish games out now? I don't know that there's too many skirmish games out. I never do think that. Star Wars Legion, I don't know. That's a very good question. I know I'm not interested because, A, I've already got enough games to play, but that's not everybody. There's a lot of people who play tons of different games, or there's some people who don't play the games that I play and they want to play this game, and that's great. I don't like the models much. Specifically the Imperials. Like the Rebel models are not bad, but the Imperial models are just not great. And I think I've said it before on the show, and it bums me out. But like the Darth Vader that comes in the main starter box, he's like holding his lightsaber kind of down, like he forgot he's got it in his hand almost, and with his other hand he's kind of reaching out like he's trying to grab a beer off of the shelf in the fridge, and he just doesn't. It's just not dynamic looking. It looks like he's just sort of standing there. He doesn't, for me, the models are not great. The game system's not bad. I played a demo at my local shop. One of the guys who works at the local shop gave me a demo. I really like the orders system with those cards and the way you're kind of bidding and stuff like that. I think that's well done. custom dice. I'm like, but I see what they're doing. Their dice mechanic kind of necessitates it, but the question is, did the custom dice mechanic necessitate custom dice, or did they decide they wanted to have custom dice and then they made a mechanic to fit it? That's a good question. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know. I mean, there were people playing it definitely at Nova, and I know some people play it at my local shop. It's just not quite for me, but it's cool though. Again, like I said, I wish that they had made the Imperial models better. Everything just looks really. They all look like they're kind of bored to be there. Space, the stormtroopers all. I mean, stormtroopers always look kind of bored anyway, but yeah. Let's see, Adam, don't you own a 3D printer? You can print similar handled there on Thingiverse, or there's a bunch on Thingiverse. Yeah, I mean, you can, and I do. There we go. Let's see here. Kelly says, Adam, thanks for the color test video. I know many people who ask that question. Not many nerds like us have software like Photoshop, but the other suggestions like the online sites are helpful. Yeah, they, because I was doing it actually for my Tyranids, and I was like, oh, because I was, like I said, I always have a tendency to try to do stuff ahead of time on the computer as opposed to like just push furniture on the living room until we find out the right spot for it. So I was doing that, and then I was like, this would be a good idea for a video, but most people don't have Photoshop, obviously, and that's when I started looking around. And I was familiar with Pixlr in the past, and I was wondering, I didn't even know if it was still in business, which it is, obviously. And then there's also that Sumo Paint, and then, of course, GIMP if you don't want to do the online thing. And then some people said in the comments that if you go to Adobe's site, and it takes a little bit of finding to find, from what I understand, but you can get a free copy of Photoshop CS2, which is probably 5-6 years old, but for what you're looking to do just specifically in this situation where you take a picture, you bring in your models, and then you tweak them a bit and put some layers down and just recolor them to see what color is going to work, it's totally fine. That's absolutely what you could use it for. So yeah, absolutely. Ernie J says, do your cats like your miniatures? Mine sure do. I don't let the cats in the basement, so that has not been an issue for years. Yeah, but in the past, when we used to live in this apartment before we bought this house that was kind of like the majority of the apartment was one big honking room, and so I couldn't keep the cats away from my hobby stuff. Every once in a while I would come home and find a cat on the hobby table, amongst all of the paints and the stuff and all the junk that I have. My hobby table's always a mess, but I would find her standing in the middle of it, and I would be like, what are you doing? And then have to pick her up very gingerly and get her out of the way. So yeah. Yeah. Kelly says, I don't like wine, so finding cork is tough. Beer bottle will not fit in GW holder. That's true. Actually, if you're looking for, I don't drink enough wine to have enough corks. And plus, a lot of times, the wine I drink, the corks are kind of small. I went onto eBay and found there must be people who work in restaurants or at, banquet halls, and they save all of the corks that they pop off for, banquets and junk like that. And then they sell them to people on eBay because people will buy corks for crafts, I'm going to make this cool cork board craft thing or whatever. So I bought a big bag of Prosecco, which I think is maybe kind of like a bubbly kind of champagne-ish sort of thing. I don't really know. But there were 50 Prosecco corks in this bag for $8 or $9, maybe $10 with shipping, or I don't remember exactly. But it was pretty cheap. And then I've got corks forever now. I'm good. You know what I mean? And the thing is that they're not the skinny kind of wine cork, which it's just a cylinder. They're more the champagne style cork where it's flared at the bottom and then has the kind of the big mushroom head. Yeah, so I bought, like I said, a bag of 50 of those for pretty cheap on eBay. So you go on eBay or maybe even Etsy potentially, but eBay, and you could get a bag of them and be done. Never have to get any more probably. So yeah. Adam, have you ever 3D printed any terrain for your war games? Yes. Not anything I've designed, but I did 3D print some stuff that I found on Thingiverse. I do want to design some stuff, though, and then 3D print it. And then if I do, and I like it, and maybe I'll show it off on the channel at some point, and then hopefully I will then make those files available on Thingiverse for other people to download as well. So, yeah, that's definitely what we want to do. Legionnaire says, speaking of other skirmish games, how similar is Gaslands to Car Wars, Gorka Morka, and or Necromunda? Well, Necromunda doesn't have cars in it at all, whereas Car Wars and Gorka Morka do have vehicles. So Necromunda is not like Gaslands at all. Car Wars is classically played with little cardboard chips on a board, like on a map. I think Gaslands has definitely got it beat in that action because you're using Matchbox cars, which you can find pretty much any place for cheap, and then modify them and have fun with that. The other big benefit, I think, to Gaslands over Car Wars is Gaslands has far less paperwork. When I used to play Car Wars, there was a lot of stuff going on. There was a lot of like keeping track of this and that and the other thing, and you had this entire 8.5 by 11 sheet of information you had to kind of keep track of for each of your cars. Gaslands doesn't do that, so that's kind of a nice benefit. I talked to a guy at Gen Con who he stopped me. He's like, "Hey, I like the channel," and then I swear I think I read on his badge that he worked for not Games Workshop, but for Steve Jackson Games, who make Car Wars. And I was like, "Hey, when are you guys gonna make the new version of Car Wars that you promised back in 2012 as one of the stretch goals for your Ogre Kickstarter?" And he said that they're working on it. So I'm like, well, okay, cool. I mean, frankly, I think Gaslands has pretty much eaten the lunch of Steve Jackson Games and their Car Wars stuff, which is a bummer because I played Car Wars like crazy during college. Like almost every Friday night. We didn't go out to bars and like talk to girls. No. We were playing Car Wars. But yeah, Gaslands has really obviously scratched an itch that more people had. Like, I think it's way tougher to get someone into Car Wars, especially old Car Wars, which they still make. They still produce it. But the old Car Wars, it's much harder to get someone into that than it is Gaslands. So, yeah. And then Gorka Morka. Gorka Morka is kind of it's a very different scale. Like, it's 28mm scale. You've got lots of little dudes, like actual orcs and Gretchens and junk like that, plus the trucks and all that kind of stuff. I think just Gaslands has got this really great sweet spot. It's very easy to get into. Everyone can find, Matchbox cars and stuff like that. Yeah, so I think that they're going to be doing pretty well. So if you're interested in, of those three, Car Wars, Gorka Morka, and Gaslands, I would tell you the Gaslands is probably a good place to start. So yeah. Michael Strange says that brewing supply store will have bulk corks for the wine fermenters. That makes sense too. I can see that, sure. Corks are also very common at any art supply shop. There you go. So that's a good place to go. Melanie Dawn says that Michael's, in America, Michael's is kind of a craft store / art supply kind of chain. Michael's sells corks as well, so you should be set there. Don't just go drinking a whole bunch of wine just because you need a bunch of corks. What else have we got here? Simon says, going to have to sacrifice one of my second tier Winsor Newton Series 7 to the god of metallics, pesky fiddling Eldar. Well, first of all, Eldar, that's, those of you who've been watching the channel for a while know my thoughts on Eldar. Yeah, frankly, I don't think a good enough painter to notice that metallics mess up any of my fancy brushes. But to be fair, I generally don't even really paint with fancy brushes. Like, these Games and Gears ones are probably the fancier of the brushes that I use. Nope, that's still where's the other one? Like I said, I do have some Kolinsky Sable ones in here. I don't know where all their little envelopes are the same, which makes sense because they got to make a lot of them. I don't know where they are. But yeah, I've always heard that, metallics. I've also always heard that you're supposed to have two water things, like one thing to wipe off your brushes, to clean off your brushes if you're using metallic colors, and another one. But I just cross-contaminate. I don't know. I'm not that fancy. I'm a tabletop painter is what I am. Maybe in the future, eventually, if I decide to start doing a little bit of display paint from once in a while, then I'll probably have two water sources just so I don't have that problem, but we'll see. Prosecco is an Italian white wine. Controlled designation of origin can be Spumante, Frizzante, or Tranquillo. I don't know if I got some of those right. I think I pronounced some of those right. Ego Queen Alexis says Gaslands is very fun. Yes, it is. It's a really good game, and I'm glad that they've been doing it. What else? Melanie asks, sounds like my college experience. We stayed in and played GURPS or Shadowrun. Yeah, we played. Technically, it was right after my college experience, but I was living with two guys that I knew from college, and on Sundays we played Shadowrun. Another guy came over, and he would be the GM, and then the three of us that lived at that house, we would all sit and play. And I used to buy these. You ever seen like those? Like you go to the grocery store, they have those big like sourdough style pretzels, the big hard pretzels that are about yay big. There was a company in Wisconsin, I think, called Schooners of Hanover or something like that, and they made just pretzels. Anyway, they had one bag of pretzels, like out of all the stuff at the grocery store. There was all the big ones that were just covered in what looked like road salt and all that kind of junk. Those big hard pretzels, but they also usually had like at least 1 or 2 bags of those same pretzels, but with no salt on them, and they were called Baldies, I think. And so I just have this very strong memory of sitting there with just a giant pile of 6-siders, because Shadowrun requires a lot of 6-siders. And we're sitting around and we're drinking like beer and playing like Shadowrun, and I would snack on those big no salt having hard pretzels, and I would use like a nice brown mustard, and then I would dip it into the thing and then like crunch, because they were super crazy hard. And then shrapnel would go flying all over the place from time to time, and I'd have to apologize. But that was my snack of choice during Shadowrun. So whenever I think of Shadowrun, I always think of these giant no salt having hard pretzels covered in mustard. I don't know. Snyder's of Hanover. Thank you, Headhunter. I knew it was something of Hanover, but yeah, I don't know if they even make those Baldies anymore, but they were spectacular. Maybe just a touch too hard though. Joe says Adam has sparkly armies. Yeah, potentially. Like, I've never looked at it and gone, oh boy, there sure is a bunch of metal flake in that. But I don't know. That's just my own thing. Let me see here. Don't drink a bunch of wine just for the corks, and don't drive afterwards. Yes, absolutely. I totally agree. Irrational Gaz says 2 water pots is great in theory, but I always end up contaminating them both. Yeah, I've done that myself too. Zombie Boy asks, I think it's a question. Yes, there's a question mark at the end. All right. Adam, with GW going into overdrive since 8th edition, technically it's been a little bit before that, but yeah, I get what you're saying. What lies in store for 2019? Do you think they'll create new alien races or new games, or support all the existing, or all of the above? That's a good question. I don't know if there will be a new race. I mean, there's going to be, Sisters of Battle coming out in 2019, which is not a new race, but it will at least be a new line of models. And there'll be a new codex, obviously. I don't know. I don't think that they can really crank out a ton more than they already have. I get the feeling, there's a very good chance that there will be at least another specialist game. But that being said, we know Speed Freaks is coming, which I guess is kind of specialist, but maybe not. So, I could expect a couple more smaller boxed games, but they've got now at this point to support Kill Team, which will be easy because the models are basically 40k models, so that won't be super hard. Whether they do another bigger box add-on, kind of like what Rogue Trader's going to be in a couple of weeks, I don't know if they're going to go that direction, or if they're just going to keep putting out those other boxes where it's like some dudes and some terrain. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. There's also Adeptus Titanicus that they've got to support now. They're going to probably keep supporting to some degree Necromunda. Lord of the Rings stuff, Middle-earth now. Obviously Age of Sigmar, obviously 40k. But I don't know. There will... And then, of course, Shadespire / Warhammer Underworld / Night Haunt, Night Vale, Night Vault. Yeah, I don't know. It's there's a lot going on right now that they've launched, and now I think they could easily spend most of 2019 just supporting all of that stuff rather than trying to make too much in the way of new, and I think they would be fine. Like I said, I still expect a couple of smaller kind of box games. Because I don't know what Speed Freaks, I don't know if that's a plan where Speed Freaks is going to come out and they're going to have lots of support stuff for it, like some of their other games. I know there's a lot of people out there that would still love to see Mordheim. I don't know that they can do that. The great way to do it, in my opinion, would be to make Mordheim, but make it be the Age of Sigmar version, where it's the problem is that like the Mordheim's got this thing where it's like, yeah, I don't know, because Mordheim, like, you could just easily use the models and play Mordheim, like the current fantasy models, you could, but you've got like the Reichlanders and you've got all these other things that technically now shouldn't be around anymore. But it would be, I don't know, like they made specialized models for Necromunda. I don't know. That's a good question. I would love to see them having Mordheim, because I know a lot of people really love that game. I just don't know if they would try to figure out a way to horseshoe it into the Age of Sigmar timeline, or whether they would basically take it back to Old World and then have to release a whole bunch of models and stuff like that. That's a good question. I don't know, but I would love to see it. I don't know what their next plans are, but we'll find out soon enough, because it's getting closer and closer to the end of the year already. Man, the fact that it's September, I'm stunned. Brian Schmidt says, there's no way they don't apply the kill team formula to Age of Sigmar. I know there are already skirmish rules out for Age of Sigmar, but I suspect they will do a big box game for skirmish AOS. Yeah, I mean, they could, like I said, they could try to then horseshoe in sort of some Mordheim sort of, usability, or not usability, sensibility, whatever. It's a potential, but we'll see, yeah. They should make squats an auxiliary of Tau. I was really hoping they were bringing back squats. I was tricked by a video. Not really. I mean, it was at Adepticon. They were showing off. They made this. They played this video at the press event at Adepticon, and there was a guy talking about ancient grudges and stuff. And he looked like he could have been a dwarf, maybe, but as it turned out, he was a normal height guy. And it was just the intro teaser video for Imperial Knights, that new codex, and also the bigger new Castellan or whatever. So I was like, oh, okay. But for a while, as he was walking in the hallway, I was really hoping he was a squat, but it turned out he wasn't. It's kind of hard to figure out proportion, when there's nothing else around. Like as he was walking down this hallway, I was hoping he was going to get to the end of the hallway and walk up next to an average-sized human and be only up to like the, not the waist, but like, to be obviously like much shorter, and then they would like be looking out over something or whatever, and then we would know the squats were back, but turns out not so much. So Adrin says squats are too smart to be with a Tau. Well, there you go. Michael Strange says 12 Necron Warriors and Scarabs all ready for priming. Blue tack for the win. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Poster Putty, man. That does help a lot for painting. Mordheim would just be kill team for Age of Sigmar, surely. No, says Brinty. I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, they could go that route if they wanted to. I don't know. Quarty Presser says, do you think there's a chance that squats could come into kill team? Man, that would be nice. I don't know. I don't know why, because I never played squats. I wasn't playing 40k when they were like a thing, but I've always just been sort of interested in the concept, and maybe it's just because it's a, for lack of a better term, forbidden fruit, because they kind of basically just said, oh, no, they don't exist. I would like to see them come back in some fashion. I don't know. Mordheim is the city. Without the city, you will lose the flavor. It has to be Oldhammer. Yeah, I get that feeling. Like, you couldn't really call it Mordheim because it was a ruined city more than 1,000 years ago. So unless the old ruined city of Mordheim now has something very fancy going on it in the Age of Sigmar, and so people are flocking to it, and that's a potential. But I think that would feel like a little bit of a, I don't want to say a cop out, but maybe. Raphael says, hey Adam, with the rule for confined space for Kill Team Rogue Trader, do you think GW will release Kill Team Space Hulk set because with the Kill Team rules and Space Hulk tiles it would be nice? Well, that would be kind of fun to play. It'd be kind of fun to play Kill Team maybe on the Space Hulk tiles. I mean, you could do it now if you really wanted to, I think. Maybe. Yeah. It would be great to see new Age of Sigmar style skirmish game that introduced Mortal Realms human factions. Yeah, see, I would love to see, like, they have really kind of ignored the humans for the most part with Age of Sigmar, and I would love to see the humans, like the new human faction, be almost like post-apocalyptic. Because if you think about it, really, like the apocalypse sort of happened. If you were like a human in the old world of, whatever, the old world of Warhammer, everything went to crap, and then you eventually died, but your kids kept going. And so this is now, like I said, it's like 1,000 years later. So the people at this point who are the humans that are still surviving are nothing like the old, empire or whatever. Sure, you may have, like, the fact that you can play still Bretonnia or Empire in Age of Sigmar is basically just saying, oh, well, these guys, they're whatever. The survivors have kept the old customs for as long as possible or whatever, and so they still dress the same and all that stuff. But it would be really cool, I think, to see some humans that were basically almost like post-apocalyptic survivors, but within the world of Age of Sigmar. I think that'd be a cool faction for them to release. I mean, they released Wet Elves. Why can't we have cool, post-apocalyptic fantasy humans? I don't know. So that's fun. The noob painter says squats are lame, zotes are where it's at. Well, I can see that. Squats were amazing and epic because they had all the amazing huge siege war machines. They pretty much sucked at most other scales. Andreas says, is it intentional that the channel seems to focus more and more on GW and less on other companies, or is it just that they're the biggest in the block, confirmation bias? More the second part. The channel generally focuses partially on the stuff that I kind of like. So it's not a news channel. I don't really announce lots of new releases from a lot of different companies. If a new release comes out, the focus of the channel for the most part is trying to get new people into wargaming. Just kind of straight up. I want to get new people into wargaming. I want to get new people into the hobby. Because I want to, obviously it's better for us all to have more and more people in our hobby because they'll produce more stuff, we'll have more people to play against, that kind of stuff. But I also believe very strongly that this hobby, the actual sitting down and building and painting and focusing on all that stuff and everything like that, has a very therapeutic, almost meditative, stress-relieving effect. So that's the main kind of mission of the channel. The fact that I talk a lot about Games Workshop stuff is A, they're cranking out a lot of stuff that's aimed at the new gamer, and B, it's the stuff that I know because it's the stuff that I play. Like, the reason I don't talk about Infinity is because I don't play Infinity, so I don't want to talk about something I don't really know about. Secondly, Infinity is kind of an uphill climb to learn how to play, so it's not necessarily great for, this is your first ever war game, why don't you teach yourself how to play Infinity, that kind of stuff. So that's kind of the deal. It's also that they are, again, you're right, Games Workshop's like the biggest out there. So when you talk about a miniature game, especially with like newer things that are coming out, new stuff that's coming out aiming towards new people, new players, it's very frequently them. So yeah. So it's confirmation bias to some degree. It's also my bias to some degree because it's what I like to play. And paint and build and all that kind of stuff. And it's also the stuff that they keep putting out is really great for the mission of the channel, aka getting new people in. So that's kind of where it's at. I have people ask me about games all the time that I don't play, and I'm just like, I don't know. And I don't want to, I like to try to at least keep an idea about a lot of different types of games, but we've all got the same 24 hours in every day. We can only play as much stuff as we have time for, or paint or build or whatever. And so, yeah, I can't do all of it. Because, again, this is also not my day job. My day job, I got to go to work and make apps and stuff. So anyway, yeah, that's kind of where that's at. That's the potentially longer answer than you may have wanted to know. Mordheim could be in a pocket realm like where Slaanesh is. Well, I could see that. That could be kind of cool, too. And then VJ Morph wants to know if it's that front or back pocket. Let me see. With Slaanesh, it's probably back pocket. Well, I don't know. Anyway. 12Neef says, I keep saying that we need to have Shaolin monks from Malign Portents for the free people. That would be pretty cool. I would really love to see what they're going to do if they do anything with the free people. I would really like to see that. Like I said, I would like to see them be almost like post-apocalyptic, fantasy survivors or whatever. That'd be pretty cool. Jonathan Proctor says, did you see any game systems at Nova that interested you? let me see. Well, like I said earlier, I did pick up a copy of the Middle Earth Strategy Battle game because it had been released that Saturday night while we were there. I didn't pick it up on Saturday night, though. I picked it up on Sunday. There was a big, huge line of people waiting, and I was like, well, I'm interested, but I'm not waiting in a big, long line interested. If there's some tomorrow, I'll pick one up. And there was. So that was, hooray for me. But, yeah. So I want to check that out and just basically read the rules and kind of check it out, see what it's about. I don't know that I'll ever play it specifically because I don't know that I need another game. But I did want to kind of read it and check it out. What other... there was a game from Warlord Games, because Warlord had a booth there. At least I think it was Warlord. I guess it could have been somebody else reselling their stuff, but I'm pretty sure it was Warlord's booth. It was... And I almost would have bought the starter box, but I was like, this is not going to fit in my luggage. It's a game called Strontium Dog, which is based off of an old 2000 AD comic. Not cartoon, but comic book kind of thing. Graphic novel? Not really. But... so if you've ever heard of Judge Dredd, the same magazine that Judge Dredd came from, it was this English magazine called 2000 AD. They also had another kind of like entire storyline that I don't think was related at all, but it may have been drawn by the same people. I've only ever read it a couple of times, but it was called Strontium Dog, and it's a little Judge Dredd-ish, but it's got a lot of mutants in it and stuff like that, and I was kind of interested because it came with a bunch of models. It was like $60 for the starter, but it came with like the book and a whole bunch of models. It was a heavy box. It was interesting. I mean, I'm sure they were metal, but still. And like I said, I almost pulled the trigger on it, but I was like, this is not going to fit in my luggage, and then I'm going to have to basically carry it in my lap on the way home in the plane, and I didn't want to do that. So I might pick that up. But there wasn't a lot of game manufacturers there. GW was there. Warlord, like I said, I think was there. There was a small company whose name I can't remember. Their game is called Genesis, but it's not like biblical Genesis. It's kind of a like build your own sort of faction kind of miniature skirmish game. It's designed predominantly by the guy who runs the Fate 212 website, which is the kind of the rumor and news website that I don't, now that GW kind of gives away all their own rumors, I don't know that they get as much rumor stuff as they get regular news. But Gary, who runs that channel, he's a nice guy. We had actually a conversation, kind of a long conversation in the airport. We were both waiting to get on separate planes, but we chatted for quite a while. And he's been designing this kind of game that's called Genesis. It's like, I think, got a Y instead of an I towards the end there. And it's kind of like a build your own faction sort of game where, instead of like getting like a codex or something like that or an army book, you sort of make up your own following a bunch of rules they have in their book. I didn't get a chance to play it, but he did have a booth there. But there wasn't a lot of game manufacturers there like selling like small ones, you know what I mean? Like Fantasy Flight was there, but they were just running the stuff that they were running. I don't even think they had a booth. I think they were just running games. So anyway, that's pretty much about the end of that answer. It's tough to talk about wargaming and not mention Games Workshop for good or bad. They have a prodigious level of output, and especially nowadays, yeah, absolutely. And as such, are probably the most visible point of contact for newbies. Exactly. That's also a very good point about the most visible point of contact for newbies. Irrational Gaz. Yeah, that's a very good point. Alex G says Strontium Dog comic was amazing. Corvus Games Design says Strontium Dog is awesome. Great comic. What else? Mega City 1 is coming to CBS in the fall of 2019. Really? CBS? I did not know that. Well, that's pretty cool. I mean, I heard about Mega City 1 coming, and I even sort of technically kind of know one of the producers because he used to be a YouTuber, a wargaming YouTuber. Templar's Crusade... No, I can't think of his name now. I mean, his name is Brian, but his channel's name was Templar Crusade 01. I don't know, but yeah, and so he's, I think, a producer for Mega City 1. So yeah. Witless Fop says Strontium Dog 2000 AD is still going. Well, yeah, I knew that. But I remember reading it back in the day. Dread and Johnny Alpha teamed up once. Oh, well, that's cool. Yeah. So they must have decided that it was kind of in the same universe. Time displacement grenades are for the win, according to, and that's from Strontium Dog. That I need to go back and I guess check that out. That time displacement grenade sounds like fun. Um, what else have we got? Was disappointed that Cool Mini or Not and Steamforge did not have booths this year. Oh, yeah, that's a good point. You're right, they didn't. I know there was a decent amount of Guild Ball going on. Cool Mini or Not, there wasn't much Cool Mini or Not stuff there going on there at all that I remember. I mean, there was some stuff I think that they had in the auction and things like that, but I don't remember them having. I mean, there was a lot of Blood Bowl going on in that one room. Obviously, all the 40k stuff, and the Kill Team stuff, and the Age of Sigmar stuff, and there was a ton of like big Titans and junk like that. But yeah, I didn't remember seeing that. Tectonic Craft Studios. Good seeing you again, Adam. It was also good seeing you as well, Dan. Dan, they were there too, selling their laser cut MDF like cool bases and all the other cool stuff. So yeah, Netflix, not CBS for the. Someone saying Netflix for Mega City 1, which makes sense a little bit more than CBS. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Rolling Thunder, do you know if Rogue Trader will be releasing the book as itself? The box set is cool but expensive if you don't want the models of the board set. I think it's basically just using the same. Like, I don't know, frankly, if Rogue Trader is an add-on and you have to have the Kill Team book, or if the Kill Team rules are in the Rogue Trader box. I don't know about that. It's on pre-order, I think, as of yesterday, so you should be able to go to the website and check and see if you need to have Kill Team already to use this, or if it's got its own. If it's, I don't know. I should look into that. I guess I didn't do that. What else? I was gonna show you guys some pictures. Where are we at? We got about less than 15 minutes. All right. So I'll show you guys some pictures from my Instagram. If you don't follow me on Instagram, you should think about it. Because when I go to shows, generally especially if I have to travel by plane, I'm probably not bringing a lot of fancy equipment. I have to scooch over a bit here. I'm probably not bringing a lot of fancy equipment. When I go to Adepticon, it's like a 3-hour drive, so I can fill up my car full of a stupid amount of cameras and lights and microphones and dumb junk like that. But when I go like to DC, or I'm going to where am I going at the end of this month? Oh, Valhalla. Mostly it's going to end up being on Instagram. So it's at Tabletop Minions on Instagram if you're into that kind of thing. Anyway, so where did these here? So this is the first couple of pictures I took. Because there was team tournaments and things going on at this tournament, or at this event, just like they do at, say, like at Adepticon. This was a big. There wasn't much on it when I took these pictures, but this was a big setup of. It was super cool, like display board basically. I came by much later, and this was just covered in models. These models, predominantly, the models that you're not seeing here, were currently in play during the team tournament when I took this. But it's super cool because it's got a lot of like, what do you call it? The LED lights, all that kind of stuff. And great models. That's a Forge World tank, I'm pretty sure. You got a lot of LED lights over here. Like, you could look at it and go, wow, they did really great, object source lighting, and you'd be like, no, that's actually real lighting. That's just actually real LEDs. There was a lot of LEDs this year on stuff, which was interesting. Here was some of the other tables that they had set up. I liked kind of the way this was. It's like a little open and sparse, but not completely, and it kind of makes sense almost for the look, especially because of the three-dimensional nature of that board. I keep seeing this board. I think it must be a Forge World thing or something, and it's one of those. I've got the old Desert Realm of Battle. It's made out of hard plastic. I don't know if this is hard plastic or resin or what it is. I kind of want one of these though. If you look at the board, the cardboard board that comes with Kill Team, I'm pretty sure it is just high-res photos of this 3D terrain, not this specific piece, because this was made by somebody else. But back in England, I think they've painted one up to studio quality, and then they just took pictures of it, and that's what you used for the imagery on the Kill Team board. Lot of these Titans walking around, not literally walking around, but there was also LED lights in there too. But there was a lot of these, and you'll see a picture a little bit later that was there was probably the big battle they had like Friday or Saturday night. I'll bet there was between 20 and 30 of these Warlord Titans, the big ones like this, on the table. It was crazy. So this is kind of like where the 40K stuff was happening, and it just went off. Like if you go way back in that distance, it just keeps going, and it's like different rooms and stuff. And because it was so hot that weekend, like this was the coolest place of the building, just way in the back. It was really nice and cool back there. So here's some more. That sweet terrain again, the nice 3-dimensional board. I kind of am really starting to want one of those. They're very well done. That's a regular game mat, which are also nice and very portable. But there was tons and tons of stuff going on as far as that kind of play. Lots of cool terrain and you know, tables and tables of it. If you got way to the back of the building, the terrain got a little bit more, I don't want to say generic, but it all kind of looked the same. But they had to crank out so many tables of it and then keep it someplace. But these tables, like right when you entered, these were all the fancy business, if you will. This was a huge display board and a huge Space Wolves army that was painted by Dark Bunny Creatives. And I was talking to a guy who was kind of hanging out by the board, and he said and he was one of the, I think, 3 or 4 people who work at Dark Bunny Creatives, and he stopped me and he said, hey, you told me about Wet Palette and to watch your Wet Palette video in the elevator at Adepticon like this year. And he's like, and now look what stuff I'm doing. And I was just blown away. I mean, he didn't paint all of this, but he painted with a group of people. But this stuff was just absolutely crazy. This just astounding, really, really, really good Space Wolves army. Really, really well done. Tons of like custom bits, like you got the custom wolf heads on all these, well, not all of them, like this one's got the normal head, but this one's got a custom wolf head on this Armiger whatever dude. This big one's got the custom wolf head. Just really, and the transitions with the airbrush and all that stuff, just super, super well done. Really nice, great basing. Really looks like snow and dirt and trees and stuff. The wolves, all that jazz. I was really super impressed. I mean, just the display board as well was astounding too. It was just really amazing work. I was super excited to be able to take pictures of it. Yeah, it was really neat. What else have we got? Here's Sam. So, like I said, there was there was a big charity auction, and so there was a bunch of armies there was a raffle, and there were armies that you could win. One of them, Sam painted it like a model in. It was, I think, a Hordes. Like a War Machine Hordes, a Hordes of Troll Bloods, I think, and he painted one of the models. So they were all painted by like pro painters who basically donated their time. Somebody else donated the material and the paint, not the paints, but the models and all that kind of stuff. And then you could win these armies. There was a 40K army, a Hordes army, I think a 30K army. There might have been a couple others, and then there was this Warlord Titan. Here is Sam for scale, so you can see how big this thing is. This is like a $2,000 model, just the model unpainted. Like you want to order one of these from Forge World, you order it, and I think it's like $2,000. It's huge and astounding, and it was on a rotating thing and lit very well. And this is something you could win for like $5. I believe there was just like a $5 raffle, and this is one of the things you could have won. And I was like, how am I going to get that home? So but it was amazing looking. It just was super, like, and the yellow is so well done, just really very. I don't know, the yellow and the blue worked really well together, and all the parts, and the white and just everything. It just was an amazing looking model. Like, I don't know what I would ever do with it, but it was pretty astounding. Just amazingly good paint job. So yeah. And then you could also win a bolter. I kind of want to find someone who makes like 1-to-1 scale like bolters and stuff like that, because I kind of want one. This was part of the silent auction. This was a cool Tyranid army that was like 99 models or so. I was also sort of interested in it too, because I kind of want to steal the paint scheme maybe for my Tyranids, but I'm not sure. So yeah, but it was very well done. I really liked what this person had done with their stuff. And again, there was just, I think that when I left on Sunday, the bidding on it was, I don't know, $550, maybe $600. At Nova, the last couple of years, they've had this green screen set up, and then they've had some prop weapons, this being a bolt rifle, like a Primaris, and then you get your picture taken for free, and then they would put in backgrounds and stuff, and then put them up on the Nova Open website, usually in the evening, late in the evening. And so I walked by at one point and got my picture taken. They also had a chainsword too, but I liked the bolt rifle a little bit better. If you had the chainsword and you were doing cool stuff with it, they would actually superimpose in like sparks and stuff like that coming off of the chainsword, which was pretty cool. But yeah, so I like this picture a lot as it turned out. It turned out pretty well. I've used it. It's now, I'm using it as a profile picture. So anyway, it's just really cool that they kind of work with Warhammer community and the Nova Open, and they make these pictures and stuff. There's tons. If you go to look at the Nova Open's or not the website, the Facebook page, you can see tons of pictures. They have like an entire couple of, I think they have an album every day of the convention where they show all the different people and stuff like that. It's a pretty cool thing. And I kind of want a bolt rifle now. Not actually like a working one, but like a nice kind of cosplayish sort of like 1-to-1 scale one. That'd be pretty cool. And then this is actually, as it turns out, the picture that I used in the thumbnail today, I think. So that's it. But this is like that giant Apocalypse Titan battle. So like in this shot, there are these are Reavers or Warhounds. I think they're Reaver Titans. So those are smaller. But there's at least another 6 or 7 in the back, and then there's a couple more. Like I was sort of leaning out into the middle of the table, but it was just, they were all over the place. Here's 2 more. There's a bunch. There's another one. There's a bunch of them all along here. Some Reavers, some Warhounds. Like just an astounding amount of. Just like boom, 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 boom. Crazy, crazy amounts of resin on that table. Like the Imperial Knights that you see on the table look like, almost like troops because they're so small in comparison. They're just like little dudes down here running around, like going, hey. And then this just, like if you know what an Imperial Knight, like they stand, I don't know, 6-7 inches tall, and then look at how small these guys are in comparison to this big monstrosity. I mean, these things are like 2 feet tall, maybe a little bigger. It was just crazy. So I had not quite seen anything quite that large in really probably at any convention. I know that there's a decent size. I think there's a Titan battle that they do on the floor, I think, at Adepticon. But I don't know. Seeing it on the table like this, I thought it was pretty impressive. All right, so now I'm going to go back over here, and I'm going to get rid of that for now. All right. Then we're back to chat. How much time we got left? Only about 3 minutes. Okay. Let's see. Do you recommend building and painting a unit before building the next, or building my army completely before painting? I have 2,000 points of 40k Drukhari in boxes. I would probably tell you, honestly, the way I do it generally is I will build, if I know, like, the army, if I know I'm building a 1,500 point list or a 2,000 point list and I've got it all planned out, like I did that with my Space Marines, I built everything all at once. And then textured all the bases and did all the shoulder pads, and now it's just waiting for primer. And then that way, each unit will hopefully look like the last because I'm painting them all roughly at the same time. I've not done that all the time in the past. I haven't in the past also just done like, bits and pieces. But I think if you've got it far enough in advance planned, like your list and what you're going to do, and you got it all bought, I would probably sit down and paint it, or sit down and build it all, and then paint it all. But it doesn't work for everybody. Yeah. What else? We've got some people saying make props and costumes for cosplay LARP, so bolters are definitely going to be done. I do think I'm going to put something on Facebook soon saying I'm looking for people. Ooh, I make the camera wiggle. Sorry. I do think I'm going to put something on Facebook soon saying because I'm interested. I think it would be a fun prop to have in the background of the videos. So, yeah. Let me see. What else? Misleading Adventures. It would have to be an Adeptus Titanicus battle with really small players. Oh, yeah, I can see that. Titan battles are crazy weird. Fun to watch, but I don't get the attraction. I've played in an Apocalypse game once. When the first game shop opened up here in town. Back in... Was I living? Let's say 10 years ago. Maybe not quite even that long ago. But when the first game shop, because we had a comic book shop that sold some games like Magic and some board games, and they could order things. But then we eventually had a game store that opened up, and now we have 2 game stores in Oshkosh. Anyway, when the first one opened up, they had this huge Apocalypse battle. It was probably, what was it? Something like 80,000 points per side. I think it was 16 players, so it was 8 per side. Yeah, that math works out. So there was 8 people per side, and it was 16 players. We had 1 Titan, but it was not a real Titan. It was made out of paper. This guy had found like a pattern, a PDF like pattern online, and downloaded it and printed it all out and put it all together, and it was pretty impressive looking. But it was made out of paper. It was white. Like, he used copy paper, and it was white, and he didn't color it in any way. So it's just this. It looked like sometimes in video games when the textures don't load, and you just have like this sort of weird white shape, kind of, that's like the 3D shape it's supposed to be, but it doesn't have any textures. It kind of looked like that. That was our Titan. And anyway, but I just can't play Apocalypse games because there's so many people. Like, I need to focus on like one person, and everyone's trying to get everyone else's attention because like, oh, my guys are shooting it there, and you're shooting, and this is happening, and it was way too frantic for me, and it was not my jam. But I do know a lot of people who do like those types of big games. It's not for me though. So, Andreas says, I made a whole 1-to-1 ultramarine armor, and it's been sitting in the garage for a whole year. It's just a pain to move around with. Yeah, I think you have to be a space marine to actually really enjoy wearing the armor. I think normal people, it seems pinchy, like in certain areas with the shoulder pads and the armpit parts. And like if you look at, like try to take a normal, Space Marine armor shouldn't fit even a Space Marine, sort of, but it's not too bad. So anyway, Papercraft Titan sounds awesome. It was awesome-ish. It was pretty cool. Don't get me wrong. But I think it took a lot of work too. But a lot of gluing tabs together and stuff like that. But it was sort of silly looking, just because it was all white. Anyway, it's 11 o'clock over here in my neck of the woods, and so it is the end of the show. I want to thank people for coming by and checking stuff out. I was able to show people things I brought back from Adepticon, show people some pictures of stuff that I took. If you didn't already follow me on Instagram, you got to see some pictures. I'll have to go through my phone and try to find some other photos, because I know there was some other stuff I took that I just didn't get a chance to post, but I'll have to take a look into that. If you get the chance, Nova Open's a great convention, so if you can go, I mean, seriously, besides the fact that it's for charity, which is spectacular, it's also just like a really fun time, and it's just really, I've enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to hopefully being able to go back again next year and do some seminars as well, teach my seminars, talk to a lot of people, hopefully play some games. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. So that's pretty much it, and I'll see you guys who live in the stream in 2 weeks. I think it'll be in 2 weeks, and then the week in between the next one and the one after, I'll be in Utah for Valhalla. I'm pretty sure that I'm doing the math right on that. I'm going to bring up my phone just to be completely sure. Boop, boop, boop. Calendar. Yeah. So the 23rd is the next show. Today's the 9th. The 23rd is the next show, and then on the 30th, I'm flying to Utah, and then I will get back on Friday, I guess, the 5th of October, and then the 7th will be the next show after that. So I won't be screwing up the schedule, which is great. And I will also not be trying to post a live show from Utah, which did not work last year. All right, so there you go. I'm done rambling. So again, I want to thank everybody for coming in and chatting and talking to each other and asking me questions and listening to me go on about stuff. And thanks for watching. We'll see you in 2 weeks.